What's up, everybody? As active duty service members, we've all tried to buy multiple ribbons and devices in anticipation of messing up the ribbon construction process. We found it even more demoralizing paying high prices for mounting services. Luckily, the Perfect Ribbon provides the professional mounting look at a fraction of the cost. They take the hassle out of preparing ribbons so you can put on your uniform. Head on over to the show notes and use my referral code to get 20% off on your next purchase.
Say welcome back to Meech Speaks.
Welcome back to Meech Speaks.
Meech Speaks.
Welcome back to 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 Meech Speaks.
I want to say something. A prize, motherfucker.
What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Meech Speaks. I'm your host, Demetrius Thigpen, also known as Meech Speaks. Now, before we get started with this episode, head on over to Apple Podcasts or Spotify Podcasts and leave this podcast an honest review, because this podcast deserves to grow just as much as we do. Now, good morning, everybody. Happy Monday. Today's topic is all about self-accountability. Yep, that's right, self-accountability, because I don't know who need to hear this, but you got to own up to your shit. You know what I mean? Like, you got to be able to own up to your shit. And I bring that up, man, because have you ever just sat back and had a conversation with somebody, and as they start to divulge details of the story, you start to realize that it's their fault? You know what I mean? And you doing your best, you doing the best that you can not to tell them that, hey, man, like, I think that's your fault, but you can't help it. And then they'll come back and tell you another story, and once again, guess what? It's their fault again. And finally, you say to yourself, like, bro, man, like, how do you keep ending up in this situation? And they say, life, man. No, it's not. No, it's not. It's not life. It's you. And I can't stress this enough, man, but I don't know who needs to hear this, but you gonna keep failing in life if you refuse to take accountability for your actions. Life ain't out to get you. Life is neutral. You keep fucking up in life. And once again, that sounds a little accusatory on a Monday morning. But the reality is that we all know what self-accountability is. It's the responsibility. It's being able to take responsibility for your actions and the part that you play in something. But the problem is that we only take accountability for our actions when shit's going good for us. You feel me? You get a promotion, you say, man, I was out here grinding, man, stay down. I did everything that I could, man, that's me. You receive a reward, hey, man, that's me. You receive a couple of accolades, man, hey, I did all that on my own. I did that. That's me. Anytime we receive something good in our lives, we the first one in line to say, yup, that's me. And I ain't taking nothing away from you. I ain't taking anything from you, because that was you. But when you fucked that relationship up, that was you too. When you showed up late to work, that was you too. That wasn't traffic. That wasn't your alarm. That was you. You know what I mean? When you made that bad decision, that was you too. When things don't go your way, stop looking for everyone else to blame and take that exact same energy that you had when things were going good for you. Because if you don't, man, just like what I said earlier, you're going to continue to keep failing in life. You're going to continue to keep failing in life. Now, coming into this, and having an idea to be able to start this episode, it really, I had to have this exact same conversation with myself. I had to tell myself this exact same thing. And it really came back from a time where I accidentally EAS'd out of the military. And I say accidentally because I didn't do any of that on purpose. 6 months, I realized, I was like, hey, it's time to start my re-enlistment package. This is my third re-enlistment package. I'm not stressed at all. I go to the career planner. I'm a top tier Marine. I already know that. Let's get the package going. 6 months turns to 5, 5 turns to 4, 4 turns to 3. I ain't really heard anything from my package. 3 turns to 2. I'm not tripping though, because this ain't the first time that I've been in a situation like this. I've cut it close before. But now it's 1 month before I EAS. And my package is still in limbo. I go there, I ask what happens, I take what his answer is, and I leave and I go on about my day. Now here it is, my EAS, I'm showing up to work. I still have not heard anything from my package. And for those who don't understand, now I'm not getting paid. And everyone's looking at me like, why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? And I'm like, what do you mean? I did everything that I was supposed to. It was his job to make sure that my package was done. And of course, everyone's like, oh, well, if that was my package, I would have did this. If that was my package, well, if was a fifth, then we all be drunk, right? But the reality is that when you refuse to take responsibility for the part that you play in a situation, whether that's big or small, you have now allowed someone to take full control of it. You know what I mean? And when I mean like you have allowed someone to take full control, there was moments where I could have went there. I could have went there every single day and showed up and said, yo, what the fuck is going on with my package? You don't know? Who do I need to talk to find out who does know? Matter of fact, since nobody knows, I'm going to go ahead and get my command involved so that way we can find an answer, because I am not about to EAS like this. I should have handled it like that. I should have been like, why don't you just extend me 6 months so I can have enough time on contract so y'all can unfuck this situation? I should have handled it like that. But the reality is that I passed that package off and I said, it's your responsibility now. I pretty much told him, hey, my career is your responsibility now. So once again, when I tell you that if you refuse to take responsibility for your actions, you have now given someone full control to take responsibility for it. Now, the question is why is it so hard for us to take responsibility for our actions? You know what I mean? Because just like what I mentioned earlier, we know when to take self-responsibility. Let me rephrase that. Now, the question is why is it so hard to take responsibility for our actions? Like, why is it so hard to be accountable for us? You know, because when things are going good, you feel me? We know when to take, accountability. Like when things are going good, we're first in line. You know what I mean? We giving ourselves all the attaboys. Hey, take all the pictures that you want. Hey, this all me. But as soon as something goes wrong, now we shy away. You know what I mean? Hey, it ain't all my fault. We look to everybody else. Hey, so-and-so was doing it too. Hey, so-and-so was in the group. Why didn't he? Why is that? And as I sit back on it, man, like we can come up with all type of reasonings, but I think it has a lot to do with our ego. You know what I mean? Because when you think about anything that has something to do with self, take a step back and realize that when we talk about self, we're talking about the ego. And when it's good, hell yeah, I want to take accountability for that. Hey, I did that. You know what I mean? Hell, I ain't even got to be the one that's receiving the award. But if I mentored them, hey, go ahead and let me know. Hey, that's what good mentorship look like. You know what I mean? Hey, I made that meal. Hey, it's the best meal that you ever had. Hey, that went to me. But if the meal came out like shit, oof, must have been, something from the store. Oh, I didn't have this. I didn't have enough time. When you really look at it, the reason why it's so hard for us to take accountability for our actions is because by us doing that, we're accepting fault. And once again, just like what I mentioned, it's an ego thing, yeah? So when we accept fault, we're admitting to ourselves that we may or may not be who we are in our head. Because let's just keep it a buck. A lot of us hold ourselves on such this high platform or this high pedestal that we don't think that we make mistakes in our head. You know what I mean? We don't do this in our head. So when reality does not align with the image that we have in our heads, of course, we're going to be a little apprehensive. Or maybe if I switch gears a little bit, maybe the image that you have in your head is of someone so inferior that's always messing up. So naturally, you're trying not to take fault for it because you don't want your thoughts to be true. I can't stress this enough. You know what I mean? Is that your ego is the reason why you're not going to be able to move forward. Being able to take accountability in the part that you play, it doesn't mean that you're a failure. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't mean that you're a fuck up. It doesn't mean that you're inferior. It just means that in fact, it means that you aren't afraid to take ownership for things. And as we talk about ownership, why it's so important to have accountability, or let me rephrase that, why is it so important to be self-accountable, is it goes into a plethora of things. first and foremost, you remain in control. And when I mean that you remain in control of the narrative. Okay? When you refuse to take ownership, you have now given the pen to someone else. And they can write that story however they want. You over here saying that you didn't do that, but they saying that you did. You over there saying that, hey man, look, I had other stuff going on. That's why I didn't show up. All right, well, to me, it sounds like an excuse. It sounds like you didn't show. When you take accountability, you remain in control of the perspective and the narrative. When you take accountability and you are able to be accountable for your actions, you become a master in hindsight. And what I mean by that is that, yeah, you may fuck up one thing. And the thing about hindsight is that there's a beauty in it. It's like losing the battle, but you're going to win the war. Yeah, you may lose that moment in life. You know what I mean? You may lose that moment. You may be in your feelings. You may get emotional about it. But when you grab that lesson, right, and you are able to apply that lesson, the next obstacle that comes in front of you, you're going to knock it down. Because you accepted the part that you played in it. And by accepting the part that you played in it, now you can be able to access the lesson that was meant for you. Next, having accountability for your actions not only allows you to respect yourself more, but you gain the respect of others. And what I mean by that is that you ever seen somebody and they mess up and immediately they say, hey, that's on me. You know what I mean? And when I say taking responsibility, please understand that when you take responsibility, that's also you ensuring that this shit does not happen again. Because ain't nothing worse than seeing somebody say, hey, that's on me. Well, it's the 5th fucking time, bro. So can you stop letting it be on you? But when they take responsibility and they don't let it happen again, you respect that person more. Ain't nothing worse than seeing somebody come in late to work and they say, oh, it's traffic. It was my alarm. No, it's not. You overslept and you have piss poor training and you have piss poor time management. So with that being said, you will have the respect of your peers when you're able to take accountability, even if it's a small part. Even if it's a small part. Because it shows that you're not afraid of responsibility. It shows that. Also, you respect yourself more. Because when you are able to respect yourself more, let me rephrase that. When you are able to take ownership for your actions, right? You aren't shying away from it. You're not hiding behind your ego. You're vulnerable and you're saying to yourself like, damn, man, I fucked up, but I ain't gonna let that shit happen again. And when you don't let that shit happen again, it's almost like you just kept a promise to yourself, and yourself is wanting to reach back and give you an attaboy like, hey, that's what I'm talking about right there. That's what I'm talking about right there. We faced a little adversity, but we ain't about to let it happen again. Next, and I think this one's just as important. When you are able to take responsibility for your actions, you will continue to keep getting better in life. It's not that you keep jumping on the grenade, but you keep taking the lessons that you learn in life. Because just like what I mentioned earlier, when you face some type of obstacle or when you face some type of triumph and you take a step back and you learn the lessons from it, because everything has a lesson from it, you cannot help but grow from that. So if you're not taking ownership for that and you're constantly shrieking away from it, then who is it going to? And if you refuse to accept the lesson, then you're the only thing that you're going to end up is stagnant. Being responsible for the part that you play and the story that you have written, whether that's a big or small part, is critical and is the key to helping you become a better version of yourself. And just like that, another extraordinary thought left this ordinary mind. I hope you enjoyed this episode half as much as I enjoyed making it. Now, do me a favor, if you're on Apple or Spotify, don't forget to leave a 5-star review for this podcast. And lastly, hit that subscribe button because this podcast deserves to grow just as